Have you ever wondered why some people seem so calm, so steady? Not because life is easier for them, but because something inside them no longer shakes. They don't rush, they don't explain, they move like water through the noise, clear, quiet, certain. And maybe deep down you've longed for that kind of stillness too. Not the kind that comes from hiding, but the kind that comes from knowing how to stay present, even when the world spins fast. The Buddha once said, "Greater than conquering 1,000 men in 1,000 battles is one who conquers himself." But how do we do that? How do we stay rooted in a world that pulls us in every direction? Maybe it begins with something gentler than we've been taught, not with force, not with willpower, but with awareness, a shift, a breath, a quiet return. This is not a video about fixing yourself, it's about remembering that there is a rhythm already within you, one that doesn't need to shout to be heard. And if you stay with me, we'll walk through 7 quiet truths, drawn not from ancient battles, but from the daily moments where discipline becomes peace and stillness becomes your strength. So let me ask you, if you stopped forcing and simply listened, what would your life begin to say back to you? Let's begin, gently, right where you are. Part 1. Know yourself. First and always, they say the hardest person to face is the one in the mirror. But why is it that we spend so much of life trying to fix the world while barely stopping to look within? What are we really afraid of finding there? There is an old Zen story, simple but it lingers. A young monk came to his master one morning, eyes restless, voice eager. "Master," he said, "I want to conquer the world's confusion. I want to master my emotions, succeed in my practice, and help others awaken. Where do I begin?" The old master smiled gently, dipped a ladle into a still basin and said, "Before you try to still the world's storms, sit by this water, watch it until it reflects your face without a single ripple." The young monk sat. Hours passed, the water kept moving. Only when he stopped trying to force it, when he let himself breathe, did the water settle, and his reflection, clear as morning, appeared. Then the master said, "Now begin." It is such a quiet truth, yet so often overlooked. We cannot bring peace to a world we don't understand until we've brought understanding to our own inner world. In the teachings of the Buddha, self-knowledge is not a luxury, it is the starting point of liberation. He said, "Though one should conquer 1,000 men in battle, he who conquers himself is the nobler victor." Dhammapada, verse 103. But here's the dilemma. Most people mistake knowing themselves with knowing their resume, their memories, or their opinions. True self-knowing goes deeper. It means turning inward, not with judgment, but with compassion. To sit with your fears without pushing them away. To notice your reactions without blaming others. To observe your thoughts as clouds passing through a vast sky. This is the real battlefield, the place where self-discipline is born, and it begins in stillness. Try this. For just 5 minutes each day, sit in silence and ask yourself, what am I truly feeling? Where in my body does this feeling live? What story am I telling myself right now? You may be surprised. The answer is rarely what you think. You might discover that beneath your frustration is sorrow, that beneath your pride is fear, and that beneath your anxiety is simply the aching desire to be safe. This awareness is not weakness, it is strength, the kind that doesn't shout but steadies, the kind that turns confusion into clarity and reaction into reflection. The Buddha taught that all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. So if the mind leads all things, what happens when we finally learn to listen to it instead of run from it? And yet, knowing the mind is only the beginning, because once you begin to see yourself clearly, a new challenge arises. Can you stay steady when your emotions surge? Can you choose calm, even when your instincts say fight or flee? That's where we're going next, because the real test of discipline isn't just in knowing the storm is coming.
It's in learning how to stay present when it finally arrives.
Part 2. Respond. Don't react. Have you ever noticed how quickly a moment of peace can vanish with just a few careless words? One sharp comment, one unexpected disappointment, and suddenly we're swept away by emotions we thought we had under control. But where do they come from, and who's really in charge when they arrive? There's an old Zen saying, "You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." The story goes like this. A monk was walking through a quiet village when he came across a farmer shouting at his ox. The animal, stubborn and unmoving, refused to pull the cart. The more the farmer yelled, the more rigid the ox became. Frustrated beyond reason, the man beat the animal with a stick. The monk watched for a while, then gently stepped forward. "May I?" he asked. He approached the ox, not with force, but with stillness. He placed his hand softly on its neck, whispered a word the farmer couldn't hear. Then he walked slowly ahead of the cart, and the ox followed. When the farmer asked what the monk had done, the monk simply said, "You were reacting to its resistance. I responded to its fear." So much of life is like that ox, resisting, confused, heavy with unseen burdens. And we, like the farmer, often meet it with noise, demand, and frustration. But the Buddha taught, a man is not called wise because he talks and talks again, but if he is peaceful, loving, and fearless, then he is in truth called wise. Dhammapada, verse 258. Discipline then is not about silencing your feelings, it's about meeting them with enough awareness that you are not ruled by them. When anger rises like a flame, you have a choice: pour fuel on it or simply not add more wood. The moment between stimulus and response is where your power lives. That breath, that pause, that whisper of clarity that says, "Wait, don't speak yet, let the emotion soften." In Buddhist practice, this is called sati mindfulness. It's not suppression, it's not pretending, it's presence with wisdom. Try this. The next time you feel your chest tighten, or your voice rise, or your fingers clench, stop, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 6, and ask yourself, is this feeling true or just loud? 9 times out of 10, the wave passes. And when it does, you find something extraordinary waiting underneath, a steadiness you didn't know was there, a deeper part of you that doesn't get caught up in every passing cloud. The great teacher Ajahn Chah once said, "You can't calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass." And that is what true discipline feels like. Not stiff control, but soft presence. Not resistance, but deep listening. Not a hard grip, but an open palm. But what anchors that presence? What gives us a solid place to return to when the world outside and the world inside both shake? The answer lies in the small, quiet rhythms of our daily life, the habits we return to again and again, like prayer beads moving gently between our fingers. And that is the path we'll walk next. Part 3. Build sacred habits gently. If you truly wanted to change your life, where would you begin? Not just in thought, but in rhythm. In something small, something quiet, something sacred. But what if the secret to transformation isn't found in grand gestures, but in the way you rise, the way you walk, the way you breathe before sleep? There's an old story from the Zen tradition. A young disciple came to his teacher in frustration. "Master," he said, "I meditate every day, but my mind still wanders. I try to be mindful, but I forget. I want to change, but I fall back into my old ways." The teacher, without replying, brought out a teacup and poured tea until it overflowed onto the table. The student jumped back. "It's too much." The teacher smiled. "Exactly. Your mind is like this cup, overflowing with effort, expectations, and impatience. Empty it. Begin again." But this time, not with ambition, only with sincerity. That's what sacred habits are, not performances, but gentle containers, not tasks to complete, but places to return to. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "As irrigators guide water to fields, as fletchers shape the arrow, as carpenters carve wood, the wise shape their lives. But shaping takes time, and it always begins with the simple." Perhaps it's making your bed each morning, not to impress, but to bring order to the first breath of your day, or brewing tea with attention, listening to the water boil, watching the steam rise like a silent offering, or walking after a meal, not to burn calories, but to feel your body move through the moment. What makes these sacred is not their size, but their sincerity. The mind thrives on rhythm, and the heart remembers what is repeated with care. Try this. Choose just one ritual, something you can do in 5 or 10 minutes, and make a quiet promise to yourself. This I will do, not for the result, but for the presence it brings me. And when you falter because you will, do not punish yourself. Begin again as gently as a child learning to walk. That too is discipline, the art of returning, without shame. You see, many people confuse discipline with rigidity, but the Dharma teaches otherwise. Discipline is not about force, it is about remembering. It's returning to what matters, again and again, even when life pulls you off course. Think of a monk in a monastery. His days are not filled with noise or novelty, they are filled with repetition. Bells ringing at dawn, sweeping the same floor, walking the same path, and yet, in that repetition, something deep unfolds, peace, because the soul doesn't need excitement, it needs anchoring, and in a world that demands speed and distraction, a quiet habit becomes an act of sacred defiance. So ask yourself, what is one small thing I can honor each day, like lighting a candle at dusk? And perhaps more importantly, can I be kind to myself when I forget? Because the practice is not in the perfection, it's in the coming back. And as we come back, again and again, something begins to shift. We begin to notice not just our habits, but the hidden emotions that knock us off balance. And to build real self-discipline, we must know not just how we act, but how we react. Part 4. Know your reactions and transform them. You've been here before, haven't you? That sudden heat rising in your chest, a word said in frustration, a situation that didn't go your way, and before you even realize it, something inside you tightens, flares, lashes out or shuts down. But what if your reaction isn't the problem? What if it's the doorway? There's an old Buddhist parable. A monk named Moggallana, once a fierce warrior in a past life, struggled with deep waves of anger in meditation. Though he had left the world behind, the fire within had not left him. One day, while meditating in the forest, a hunter passed by and accused him of stealing fruit from a tree. Without waiting for a response, the man struck him across the face. Moggallana stood still. The hunter, taken aback, waited for retaliation. But the monk simply bowed, his voice soft as wind through leaves. "Thank you," he said, "for showing me the anger that still lives in me." The man dropped his weapon, and in that silent moment, 2 hearts were transformed, not by force but by awareness. You see, we cannot heal what we refuse to face, and reactions, those sudden bursts of emotion, they are not enemies, they are messengers. The Buddha taught, like a fish drawn from its watery home and thrown upon the dry ground, even so does the mind flutter. Therefore one must restrain the wandering mind. Dhammapada, verse 34. But restraint in this sense is not suppression. It is the courage to sit with what arises, to feel the fear, the irritation, the hurt, without immediately clinging to it or letting it speak for you. Try this. When a strong emotion arises, frustration, sadness, jealousy, place your hand over your heart. Breathe into that space and whisper inwardly, "This too is welcome. Let me understand it." Instead of reacting, become curious. Where did this come from? Is it truly about this moment, or an old wound resurfacing? Is it a story I've carried for years, that I am unseen, unworthy, unloved, and in that pause, something sacred happens. You loosen the grip, you see the emotion, not as truth, but as a wave, and you, dear friend, are the ocean. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." The more we train ourselves to pause, the more power we reclaim from the past. You stop living on autopilot. You begin to respond rather than react, and in that space of response, healing takes root. But here's the challenge. We don't always have time to pause, do we? Life moves fast. Triggers come suddenly. Words fly like arrows. So how do we build this space within us, not just when meditating, but in the chaos of the everyday? The answer, as it turns out, lies in seeing discipline not as a momentary effort, but as a preparation, a quiet training of the mind and heart, before the storm even comes. Part 5. Prepare before the storm. Why do some people remain calm in the face of difficulty, while others fall apart at the slightest discomfort? Is it fate or training? What if true resilience isn't something you find in the moment, but something you've been quietly building all along? There is a Zen tale often told in quiet monasteries. A young novice once asked his teacher, "Master, how do you remain so calm when others are angry, so steady when the world is in chaos?" The old monk smiled gently. "Every morning," he said, "before the world awakens, I sweep the temple courtyard." The novice looked puzzled. "But how does that help?" The teacher replied, "Because when the storm comes, I don't have to learn how to hold the broom. My hands already know." It is a simple lesson but profound. We do not rise to the occasion, we fall back on our preparation. The Buddha once said, "Victory is born before battle, in the quiet mind of one who has practiced." This practice doesn't have to be grand or performative. It can be as soft as breathing deeply each morning before speaking, as gentle as reviewing your day ahead with awareness, as deliberate as choosing when to be available and when to guard your peace. Most people rush into the day like soldiers sent into battle without a map. But what if you gave yourself just 5 minutes the night before to ask, what truly matters tomorrow? What is one thing I want to protect? My time, my energy, my calm, and what might try to pull me away from it? Even just these quiet questions begin to prepare the ground of your mind, so that when the world spins fast, your inner compass is already pointing true north. Preparation, in the Buddhist path, is not about trying to control life. It is about understanding impermanence and training the heart to meet change with grace. This is why monks practice viriya, the energy of effort, not frantic doing, but consistent presence, waking early, sitting in silence, eating with attention, resting without guilt. These small disciplines form the shape of the day, like a potter shaping clay, and so it is with us. You might not wear robes. Your life may be filled with meetings, children, errands, or aging bones, but you can still prepare your temple each morning, your body, your breath, your heart. Try this. Before checking your phone, light a candle. Before responding to a message, close your eyes and take 3 breaths. Before stepping out the door, ask yourself, what part of me do I want to bring into the world today? You see, storms will come that we cannot change, but how we meet them, that is the fruit of our daily discipline. And yet, even the most prepared among us still stumbles, because not all wisdom lies in steadiness. Sometimes it lies in knowing when to stay silent, when to guard your inner flame, and when to say nothing at all. And that, dear friend, is the next part of this path. Part 6. Protect your energy. The wisdom of silence. Have you ever shared a fragile dream only to have someone's doubt shake your faith? Or spoken your truth too soon only to watch it misunderstood, twisted, or used against you? What if some things in life grow best in silence? There's a Zen saying that goes, "Thunder is loud, but it's the rain that nourishes the earth." Silence, when embraced with awareness, becomes a form of sacred protection, not against the world, but for what is tender and still forming within us. In the time of the Buddha, there was a monk who lived alone in the forest. He rarely spoke, and many thought him cold or aloof. One day, a traveler stopped by and asked, "Why do you not teach or share what you know?" The monk smiled and pointed to a sapling just beginning to grow beside the path. "Would you yank this tree from the ground just to show someone it's growing?" he asked gently. Some things need time, some things need quiet, and indeed, silence is not absence, it is space. It is the womb of clarity, the home of reflection, and the sanctuary of resilience. The Buddha taught, "Be guarded in speech, restrained in mind. Do not let your energy be scattered. Let your wisdom shine like a lamp in the dark." When we speak too soon, we give our power away. When we share too widely, we dilute the sacredness of our inner life. Not everyone deserves access to your becoming. Not every opinion deserves a seat at your table. So perhaps you do not need to explain your healing. You do not need to justify your boundaries. You do not need to announce your every step. Instead, you can choose to hold space for your intentions, your dreams, your grief, your growth, to water them in the quiet, shield them with presence, and let them bloom when the time is right. Try this gentle practice. Before sharing something important, a goal, a plan, a hope, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this from confidence or from a need to be reassured? If it's the latter, perhaps silence is the kinder path, not only for others but for yourself. And even in conflict, silence can be wisdom. You do not have to answer every provocation. You do not have to explain yourself to those determined not to hear. Sometimes silence is how we preserve peace. Sometimes it's how we say, "I choose not to be pulled from my center today." This is not avoidance, it is awareness. It is not hiding, it is holding. You are not a performer in someone else's theater. You are the keeper of your own sacred fire. But here's where it becomes even more subtle, because life doesn't just ask us to be silent, it asks us to adapt, to bend like bamboo in the storm, to change course without losing our direction. And that, dear listener, leads us to the next truth on this quiet path. Part 7. Adapt like water. Discipline in flow. What if true discipline wasn't about holding everything together, but learning how to let go at the right time? What if resilience wasn't rigid like stone, but flowing like water, soft yet unstoppable? There's an old Zen story about a young monk struggling to keep his daily routine. Every time his plan broke, whether from rain, guests, or fatigue, he blamed himself. One day, in frustration, he asked his teacher, "Master, how do I stay disciplined when life keeps changing?" The teacher smiled and led him to a stream behind the temple. "Do you see this water?" he asked. "It yields. It flows around rocks. It moves with the shape of the earth." Then he cupped some in his hands. "It's soft, but it wears through stone. It shifts, but it never forgets where it's going." That was the lesson. True discipline is not stiffness. It is adaptability with purpose. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches, "As a fletcher shapes the arrow, so the wise bend themselves." Discipline in Buddhism is not about perfection. It's about returning again and again with gentleness. Some mornings your body may ache. Some days your mind may feel clouded, scattered. And in those moments, the temptation is to believe you've failed because you didn't follow your plan exactly. But friend, you haven't failed, because the essence of discipline is not control, it is the quiet willingness to keep flowing through the mess, through the fatigue, through the unexpected. You don't need a perfect morning routine to be mindful. You don't need an undisturbed day to practice presence. You just need to return. If you miss your meditation, take 3 deep breaths while standing in line. If you forget your gratitude journal, whisper thank you while washing your hands. If your schedule is broken, do one thing with your full heart. That is enough. Water doesn't stop flowing because of one stone. It bends, it finds another way, and so can you. Try this. When your plan breaks, pause. Instead of judging, ask, what's still possible today? Not what you hoped for, but what's real, what's available. This is not weakness, it is wisdom, because a person who can adapt without losing their direction becomes very hard to disturb. They stay rooted, not in routine, but in intention, and just like water, they keep moving, not by force, but by quiet strength. But there's one more truth, because even when you adapt, even when you flow, you still need to lead yourself gently, clearly, like a wise general in your own life. And that, dear listener, is where our final lesson awaits. Part 8. Lead yourself like a quiet general. What does it mean to truly lead yourself? Not with force, not with rigid control, but with quiet authority. Can you become the calm presence in your own life, the one who listens, who steadies, who guides, even when no one is watching? There's a story whispered among old monks, soft as the morning bell. Once, during a long drought, a monastery on the mountain ran dangerously low on food and water. The young novices began to worry. Some whispered about leaving, others argued about what to do, but the head monk said little. He simply ate the same meager meals as everyone else, rose at the same hour, swept the same courtyard. He didn't give grand speeches, he didn't raise his voice, but his calm was contagious. One night a novice asked him, "Why do you seem so steady even now?" And the old monk replied, "Because I don't lead with fear, I lead myself first." This is the essence of self-discipline in the Buddhist way. Not harshness, not punishment, but leading with clarity, presence and compassion. The Buddha once said, "As a wise man guides a boat across the waters, so too should a person guide themselves with awareness." You are the captain of your time, the caretaker of your thoughts, the gentle general of your own life, and just like any wise leader, you don't command through force, you lead by example, by keeping small promises, by showing up when it matters, by listening to your own heart before reacting to the world. So ask yourself, if I were the quiet general of my life, how would I begin my day? What kind of presence would I bring into a conversation? How would I respond to uncertainty, with fear or with stillness? You don't need a strict regimen, you don't need to become perfect. You just need to return again and again to that still, clear place within. When you say you'll rise early, do it not for discipline's sake, but to honor the sunrise inside you. When you set a small goal like walking, breathing, praying, do it like it's sacred, because it is. Not every battle needs to be fought. Not every voice needs to be answered. Not every plan needs to be perfect. But every day, every single day, you have a chance to guide your life with steadiness, like a monk with a broom, like water finding its way. Let your habits become your path. Let your presence become your message, and let your discipline be a quiet devotion to peace. In the end, it is not about conquering the world, it is about coming home to yourself again and again with soft footsteps and strong heart. So tonight, as you lay down to rest, may you ask not, "Did I do everything right?" but rather, "Did I return to myself with kindness?" Because that is enough, that is everything. Perhaps now you remember the stream we stood beside in the beginning, the way it flowed, not to prove its strength, but simply because that is its nature, and maybe that's all this journey has been. Not a map of things to master, but a gentle reminder that the quietest forces within you are also the most enduring. You don't have to win every battle. You don't have to hold it all together. You only need to return like breath, like dawn, like water finding its way back to the sea. If there's one thing I've learned from walking with silence, it's that the smallest steps often hold the most meaning. A soft no that protects your peace, a single breath before you speak, the choice to begin again, even when it would be easier not to. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful kind of discipline is not the one that roars, but the one that whispers, "I am still here, I am still listening, I am still becoming." If something in this reflection touched you, hold it like a stone warmed in your palm, not to keep, but to offer, when someone you love forgets how quietly strong they truly are. This was never meant to teach, only to sit beside you, like an old friend on a quiet morning. Thank you for walking this path with me. May the current of your life always carry you home, softly, gently, in your own time.